New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's one of those things, and we're so happy that you've chosen to be here with us. So, we just want to welcome you, and I want to get through the details of you know what to do. Push the like button, make sure you comment in the chat, let us know that you're here and where you're joining us from. It's so fun and exciting to see people from all over the world. We love that. And that's what you need to do.
So we're so grateful you're here today. We're excited. This is the number 2 show for Rockin' the Love. And why do we do this show? Well, we do it because we're really interested in inspiring ourselves and others to be in their power in their relationships.
And in case you didn't know, I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil.
And we are your hosts. So let's see. Let's start with gratitude. We like to start with gratitude in everything we do, just because we're grateful to be here. So what's one thing you're grateful for today or this week that's happened?
I'm grateful that I got to celebrate a birthday of a godson this week. That was fun.
A 13-year-old. That's not a birthday. That's a life transition, right?
Well, yeah,
that's a rites of passing for all of us. Yeah, and I am grateful. I am grateful this week for animals, our animals. We have a cat who's been with us on a long journey through Gil's ministerial school. We found her one night in a parking lot when he was in ministerial school, and she leaped into his arms and licked his nose, and the rest was history. And she's moved all over with us from Southern California to Northern California. And she's on those last legs of her journey. So I'm just so happy for animal love, because it really gets you through times sometimes when you just don't think you're going to make it through.
Yeah, she's very special. We call her Zuma, just in case you're interested.
So this week we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to, before we go into the meat of this show, we're going to talk about people who have rocked the love, people who are rocking the love, and people out there in the world. So, Gil?
So, it's been an interesting week or so. We had a major icon in our world who made his transition, Sidney Poitier. And I wanted to just touch on that because I think he lived a life that was so that made the picture. I can't think of the right word. Anyway, that demonstrated what it means to be in relationship with others and to do it in a meaningful, powerful way.
Absolutely.
And so he also said these words, which I think are very, very pertinent to the subject. Living consciously involves being genuine. It involves listening and responding to others honestly and openly, it involves being in the moment. And isn't that what relationship is all about? Being in the moment.
Absolutely.
Right? And being in the moment with honesty. And honesty does not mean always niceties. In fact, sometimes honest is pretty cruel. Not cruel, but it's pretty hard to take.
Well, and not that Sidney Poitier was cruel.
Right. That's not what I mean.
Yeah.
But just that yeah, it being honest is courageous.
Absolutely.
It's courageous.
And I think yes, and I think we also lost Betty White. Mm-hmm. And I think both of those people stood for kindness and integrity and qualities that I long to have and emulate. And yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, isn't it, when the legacies start going?
Yeah, it's kind of scary in a certain way. And yet we get all this richness that's gone before us. So, in thinking about relationship, there's one other thing I was going to bring up from Sidney Poitier, and that was that we all suffer from the preoccupation that there exists in this world somewhere in our loved one perfection. And we know that, yes, indeed, perfection is what exists in all of us. But when we're looking for someone to be perfect, which we often put on someone that's our family member or a significant other, we're in a relationship, we're saying, you need to be perfect. That creates some issues. Don't you think?
I don't know. I have to be with that one for a minute, but I understand it. I get it. And while I want to say, first of all, hello to Bonnie out there in Jalisco, Mexico. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Impressive, right? But I want to add to what we're talking about by saying we also lost Bob Saget.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
He's also somebody with a great body of work, as well as, comedians have that way of bringing the truth to you in a different way.
That's right.
And making it much more palatable, and I don't know, giving you that balance. So it is an interesting thing.
Well, it's interesting, people who act and are on television that we see, and that they through their roles have given us examples of how to be in relationship, of how maybe not to be in relationship, of just different things, and you're right. Bob Saget was one that was, he was the great dad for so long, to many people.
He was the great dad. And I have a feeling some of this will come up later on as well. So those are all really great points. I'm still pondering. I'm still pondering. I don't know why that one has me pondering as much. So today's show, tell them what it's about.
Okay. Today's show, shh, quiet. This is a secret. Today's show is about who's at the party. Did you get invited?
It's not a secret. You all are invited. You're a goofball. So yeah. And what's that about? What does that mean?
All right. So we all grow up with family members and parents and teachers and all these things. And we get lots of input into our being, which helps form who we are, right?
Yes.
And sometimes we carry this with us a little too strongly. We hold on to it very tightly, and it changes how we act for many years to come. And so sometimes we have these people, these influences, who are at our party when the party is years down the road and we didn't really invite them.
Yeah, and I would even add to that just even the voices in our head, the ones that we hear that tell us we're not enough, or or the other ones that tell us, you can do it. It's not necessarily all bad. Some of it's really good, right? And so, but it's being able to differentiate the truth and what you want to take on and carry with you, as opposed to the stuff that keeps you stuck and holds you back. So when we come back from this commercial break, that's what we're going to talk about. So start to listen, start to think about if there's anybody that you can pull up. I mean, I would venture to say that at some point or another, we've all heard our parents in our head, especially the first time you say something to your kids and you go, oh my God, there's my parents, so one of those things you swore you'd never say, usually, right? So think about that and join us after the commercial.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We are excited to be here. I am Gil.
I'm Robyn.
And we are here rocking the love today. This is a very exciting day for us. Why is that? It's our second show. And we're happy to be here. We made it through one, and we're on to number 2. And we haven't been canceled yet. So this is very exciting.
Okay, so as you can hear, there's some voice in his head that is looming on the edge of disaster, right? But seriously, that's what we're here to talk about. What are the voices that we hear? What are the thoughts we respond to and we believe? And I mean, how in some ways it's how do we create our story? I know I'm trying not to do a lot of jargony metaphysical speak, but we all have a story that we carry around with us about who we are and how we got here and what's true about what we do and what we do good and what don't do well and all of that. So we're going to kind of unpack that today. And we just invite you to think about where your story begins.
And I'm gonna start with something. I'm gonna start with Robyn because that's more fun to talk about. And Robyn is an incredibly creative person, in case you didn't know. Very creative, very artistic. And I have been with her more times to create pottery and things like that, and seen her almost finish something beautiful and then leave it because it has to be so perfect. So where might that have come from? What's that about? Do you know?
Okay, I'm scared. I'm gonna get you back, but I don't think I leave it. I just think I don't like it. It would be my assumption,
Okay.
or my summation of the thing. Well, I think the story that Gil would like me to tell is that when I was younger, and I was very artistic, and my family was always like, "Oh, you're so creative, you're an artist," and my grandmother was an artist, and so it was kind of that. It skipped my mom's generation, and it was on me kind of to be the artist. And I loved art, and that, I used to have a great time. And when I was in class, I was like in fourth grade, and we were making paper mache something, and I was actually making a hippopotamus. I'm not going to pretend that I don't know, because I do. I was making a paper mache hippopotamus, and I went to the teacher to show it to her, and she said, "Yeah, it's not as good as Coco and Ronnie's." And I was like, "All right, I'm done." And I was like, it didn't matter anymore. And I'm telling you, I have carried that teacher. I have done the artist way. I have released her. I have put her into bonfires. I've done everything you can do, short of an exorcism, to get rid of that. And I think I have. But that's a voice I carried around with me for at least 30 years. And yeah, and I didn't want to do art. And so everybody'd always be like going, "Well, don't you want to take an art class?" And I was like, "No, I'm going to take drama." And I love drama too, in the theatrical sense, not in my life. Please. Thank you. Um, but I, I just didn't want to put my energy there, because I already knew that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough in art. I wasn't as good as Coco and Ronnie. So therefore, why bother? And yeah, another time I realized, when I was out doing like a color me mine ceramics kind of thing, that like everybody was painting, and they had flowers on their flower pots, and they had all of these different things. Then they'd whip them out, and I'd be like still painting my little thing. And I realized I was painting a globe with tiny little people all around it holding hands, and very intricate. And I was like, this is so not fun. But it had to be perfect. And everybody else was just like, it's a piece of ceramics, it's not like I'm gonna do anything with it. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's art. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of ideas about the way things should look, or all of that.
Yeah, I think that's really significant, because what I've heard, and what I heard again today in that story, is two things happened. One, you obviously felt put down in some way, or pushed aside in terms of your art and your creativity, and you made a decision at that point that you fine, you're not gonna play anymore. And that story, that carried you through a long time, and has been kind of a slow movement back into sharing some more of your art.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some great stuff that you do and have done, but it took an awfully long time before I think you felt, before all that kind of made sense. Like, why do I do this? Right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. And so something happened when you said that, because I was thinking about, you said that's where you want to, did you say take your toys and go home?
I didn't say that,
but what did you say? That's where you want to stop playing? Or
yeah, you want to, yeah.
And that really is, I mean, and that, I'm like, there was probably something that happened before that made me want to just quit. But yeah, it's interesting what we do. And I was reading an article about how I think from Bruce Lipton, about how we everything is kind of encoded in us until we're 6 or 7. That's pretty much the time when we're picking things up. I mean, obviously it goes on, but I'm thinking it's almost like hypnosis. We're under hypnosis for that time period, and like we don't know, we the people don't know what we're putting in all the time, because it's not, I mean, I'm sure my teacher didn't mean to do that.
Right.
However, her name was Sarge. I'm just saying. And clearly that she probably had a lot of stuff around everything in that persona. And, but I mean, I mean, I just think about what we tell the kids,
Yeah.
and anybody, little kids, even when we're just trying to protect them.
Yep.
Even when we're just trying to send the message to be safe, if we're like, no, don't do that. You can't do that.
Don't explore that. Don't try that. You can't do that.
Right. You can't do that. So yeah. So how do we differentiate? So now we're grown up, and we know that there's voices that told us we couldn't, to keep us safe, and we couldn't for various reasons that are good reasons. And my question is, how do we differentiate the truth of those voices?
I think now we get the chance to unpack them and go, oh, I can see where that came from. And or I don't have to believe that anymore. That was something that was said, or something that I heard, or something that plays in my head. I play this tape in my head. For instance, thinking about your art thing, you played in your head that it had to be perfect, and it was never going to be as good as
Coco or Ronnie.
Coco or Ronnie. Thank you. Yeah, those two, they're just never gonna. By the way, if you ever come to our show, we'd love to talk with you. I don't know, I got lost. I'm sorry.
I can't help you, because
Okay.
I was still thinking about Coco and Ronnie. So it was about, how do you differentiate the voices? Because I was, when I was thinking about this, I was also thinking there's so many levels, right? I mean, if you go under the theory that some of it's just in our DNA,
Yeah.
it comes from our ancestors. It's not even things our parents may have been conscious of. I mean, they are our ancestors, but you know what I mean. It could come from generations ago. Or and how do you know when it's your ego speaking to you, or when it's your soul speaking to you? I mean, there's so many things that have been introduced into the mix.
And so when we get into this spiritual practice, we know that it's all for our good. We know that we have access, we have choice in all of it. We can make the decision in terms of what our next thing is. We can create where we want to go. And do we do that consciously, or do we do it unconsciously? And I think in some ways that's the biggest thing. If we don't know who's on that guest list at our party, if we don't know who we're listening to, what the words are, what the ideas were, what the beliefs were, then we probably have things there that we don't necessarily agree with, but they're running our show.
Right. And that's why we talk about it a lot in relationships, and we talk about it a lot with couples that are getting married, how important it is, to kind of let go of some of these voices, and realize that you're moving into a new slate, a new place.
Well, some of those voices are really clear about how other people treat us, about what we expect from other people. I was just on speaking with somebody yesterday who said, people don't seem to want to talk to me as much these days. They just don't want to talk to me. And I don't know, for me, I don't know how much of that is really that's the truth, or how much of it is just this kind of underlying belief that, people aren't going to want to talk. Because, aren't going to want to share with me.
I think you need to say more about that story, because I think her story was, people don't want to talk to me because I'm becoming a part of the church.
Right. Becoming more spiritual. Right.
And so it was, do people stop talking to you when you start talking about God? And the answer is maybe.
And maybe certain people did when you were younger, and so that's what you expect. Or maybe your own fear is that you're not comfortable with it, and so other people might respond that way. And so how much of it, and I'm not saying any of this stuff is what was happening. I'm just saying these are all the thoughts that went through my head around, well, I wonder what's really going on here, because how much of it could be shifted internally by this person versus versus the idea that somehow it's all happening from the outside in. How much of it is what we're setting up to happen from the outside, to appear to happen from the outside in, if you will.
And I want to touch on, while we're on that, let me say hello to Wayne from Calgary.
Yes, Wayne.
Glad you're here. Thanks for coming. But I want to touch on also not only the voices in our head, because I think there's so many other things that influence us that we don't even take note of. People, stars, movie stars or icons, Sidney Poitier, Betty White, those people, like how do they affect, how do trends in the media affect us? And music. I mean, what kind of music did you have going on in your household growing up? Was it up-tempo music? Was it not up-tempo music? And it actually, yeah, I mean, because it all affects your mood, your thoughts, all of that. I mean, it's a very entangled thing, right? Who we are and what, I mean, we don't even know what sets us off half the time, right? It's about coming in tune with what that is. Did you look at me for a reason?
Yes, because I love you.
That's a good reason. That's a good reason. You're just showing off for the people.
I know. I have to make up for this morning. Shh, don't tell her.
Okay, so but you know what I'm saying about that?
Yeah.
And it makes me think even about you're gonna have to tell the story. What Michael Beckwith, my favorite thing. One time when we were at Agape in Southern California, Michael Beckwith was giving a talk, and he talked about an article that he had read that he couldn't find again, and it was this.
And basically what it was about was, we always, and if you've ever heard Michael Beckwith or many other people, that it's about vibration. What vibration, how are we vibrating? So that's where you get sound healing. That's where you get Greg Braden's, where it's all that stuff is tied into the vibration that we're at, right? Well, in this article, what they found was they doing autopsies after people had died. People who had reported a more positive outlook on life, etc., had some kind of vibration. I don't know how they detected it, but what they detected was a very positive, upbeat, up-level vibration. And in people that had appeared to or had reported living more sad lives.
No, wait.
Wait, there's more. Okay.
No, what they determined was that whatever their cells played notes.
There was some kind of sound.
There was sound. They played notes. So people that had lived a happy life played when they played their cells or whatever, that they played an upbeat, and people that had maybe had disease or discomfort or
right.
not lived as well a life, they played dirges. They played those dissonant, minor tones.
Keys.
Yeah. So it's so fascinating, right? That I don't know, that it's all it really all goes on, and it's all part of the one, like the one life.
So I think what it comes down to is, and then where do I want to live in terms of my vibration, in terms of my music? What am I offering to the world? What am I allowing myself to feel?
Right.
Because that's really the key. If I can allow myself to feel it, then the world just becomes a natural outcome of that. Then what I play in the world just becomes a natural reflection of what's going on in here.
Right. And I just want to share that Bonnie says, the mind is like a bad neighborhood. Don't go in alone. Thank you for accompanying me as I enter my neighborhood. LOL. Yeah, but it's true, and Bonnie brings up a good point, because what would we do sometimes if we didn't have our people, our friends, our journeyers, to go in with us and remind us, or to tell us, knock it off. That's not the truth, right? So,
well, okay, so friends and relationships and people to walk with you on the path. So let me just share a little story. Many years ago, close to 20, 18 at least, I was working. I had a job, and I got laid off. And I came home, and I came home to Robyn, and I said, I got laid off. She said, oh. And sometime, I don't remember if I actually came home and said it, if I called her on the phone, if I came home early. I don't know what the deal was.
You called me on the phone. You told me you were laid off. It was your last day.
Okay, that's what it was. So by the time I got home, we were going to someone's house because she had arranged to have a bunch of friends come over so we could have a unemployment party, because it was an opportunity to set off in a new direction. Okay. And that support in terms of framing that moment in my life was so incredible that, and it taught me how to do it into the future. And so there's one of those voices, one of those things that happens, one of those places. That's someone I want at the party. That voice I want at the party. I want that there with me, because it reminds me to stay, to not go into all of the things that I could have, some of the things from my childhood, it's never going to work out. It doesn't happen. That's not for us. We don't deserve that. Whatever those stories all were.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you get fired, you're bad. You are horrible. Well, yeah, no, maybe it's just not where you need to be right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard other people tell stories about getting pushed out of positions and then realizing, oh, I needed to be gone. That wasn't where I needed to be. I wasn't happy. I wasn't this, I wasn't that. And so it's this whole thing about who's at the party too, is who are we on? Who's being honest with us? Who's listening to us? Somebody that says, hey, it's time for you to make a change. That sometimes can feel like a negative thing, but in reality, it's the honest, loving thing that moves us forward.
Well, and it's generally because your gifts aren't being used, right?
Right.
So it's not the truth of who you are, and usually other people can see that in you before you can.
Right.
Yes.
So
yeah, how do our stories get spun? Like, how do we take it on that it's our story? And I guess that's not even as important. It's a thought that one could journal about, but it's how do we let it go?
Yes.
How do we determine what doesn't serve us? And how do we become aware? Maybe I'm going to just play the devil's advocate here in that maybe some of those negative voices really serve us to wake up and to remember, or to question. When you hear the voice that says, "Oh, I can't do that," is that the truth? Can I not do it, or am I afraid that if I try and it doesn't work, what's going to come up? How am I going to, how are they going to look at me? What voices, and tell us out there, what voices do you hear in your head? Like, do you hear your parents? What's the most prominent voice? An ex partner or spouse or a teacher, a boss? It could be anybody.
What about this voice? The voice that says, what if you do it and they like it? What am I going to do now?
I can't hear you.
What if I do something? What if I show people that I really can do this, or I really have something to offer, and then they expect me to do it again?
What if I'm successful?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what if I'm successful? Do I always have to be successful? Right? Does it always have to look a certain way?
But there's something in, something for me that I've learned somewhere that makes that a little scary, and I've moved through a lot of that, but I still have that to some degree where I hesitate to push forward on some things because there's some voice that says, well, if you do this well, people are going to expect more of it. And I'm not sure you're really up to that.
Yeah. It's, so my belief is we've all come here to do some spiritual work. And it is that. It's work. You can call it growth play, or you can call it play, whatever, but it's work. I mean, I have to remain very conscious about it, and be really real, because only the conversations I have in my head, I know when I'm full of it. I mean, and I can only take those so far because there's only me there. So I have to become real super quick, on some level. So yeah, it is fascinating. So how do we change, or how do we shift our story or differentiate the voices between ego and soul and the one, and however you frame it, how do we do that?
Do we have to shift it?
I don't know. Let's talk about it after the break.
Okay.
Good question. Think about it.
All right. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Listen to all the good opportunities to listen on New Thought Media Network. I was thinking.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. And a special thanks to Hefferland Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajay, thank you for your very generous donation. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
And we're back. And so Gil asked right before we left, do you have to change your story?
Yeah. Do you really have to change your story? My thought was, is it really about it? Is it about changing a lot, or is it about choosing what we're going to retain in our story? You know what I mean? I mean, like, because sometimes when I hear the word change, it feels like when I change the oil in my car, if I had a car with oil. If you change the oil in the car, you have to take all the oil out and put new oil in, right? And so sometimes that idea of change is that you're getting rid of everything and starting over. And it's not so much about that as it is about determining where the good stuff is and where the stuff is that doesn't serve anymore, and moving your emphasis, moving your focus onto the stuff that's positive, that supports you.
I don't know that because I hear you, and I think that even in your oil analogy, didn't we do a car analogy last week? We did.
Oh, okay.
Apparently
mechanical. We're on the car. No, maybe because we have so many out front.
So, but I think you said, you're not, when you change the oil, you're not getting rid of.
No, you are getting rid of all.
You're getting rid of everything.
Yeah.
But I would say that that's not true. Okay. Because you're going to refill the same vessel. So you're cleaning it out. It's not, you're not, I don't.
It's more like flushing the radiator.
Well, I mean, if you're going to get like metaphysical, you can't, can we ever get rid of anything? No, we can't. So we're just changing it. We're transmuting it into something else. Right. So when I hear the voice of Sarge, and if I'm doing art or if I'm doing something, I can actually, send her love and remember that's not my story.
It's not my truth.
That's not my truth. That was her story. So, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know is the answer, but I don't think in some ways I think, we certainly have to reappropriate things and make decisions. It's like cleaning out your garage. You've got to decide what you're gonna. Oh, you don't know what that's like.
No, I wouldn't have a clue.
But it's like
I know how to fill one though.
cleaning out your garage or your closet or whatever, and you get rid of the things you don't need anymore, or you don't use, or that will benefit somebody else. Right.
Well, here's something I can relate to though. And that is, is the reluctancy to take stuff out of that garage. The reluctancy to let go of certain things, the reluctancy to go, okay, I don't need this anymore. But there's some part of me that goes, but I might need it later. I might want it. Maybe it could be useful. Perhaps I can redo it, whatever that thing is. And I think in some ways we're even afraid to let go of those negative things in our life for maybe some of the same reasons.
Yeah. I mean, relationships are complicated, right? And probably with yourself is the most complicated because you have all those inner questions going on. But yeah, I think that's right. And I just want to say hi to Myrna out there in Texas joining us. Thank you so much. We're just so honored to have all of you there. And I know there's a lot of people that aren't on here because y'all called me after the last show. So I want to say hello to all of our friends and family that have supported us along the way, and listeners and everybody out there. So back to the question. So what would you advise? What would you say if you were sitting with a client or somebody? Like, how do you begin to identify the voices that serve you and the voices, just the voices? How do you just identify the voices?
I think for me, the place I start is just when I'm in a situation where I have a response, or perhaps a negative response I don't feel good about, either to someone else or in a situation or to something. And I have to stop and go, wait, why? What's this really about? And I think the what's this really about allows me to look underneath it. And if it's something that I've adopted, if you will, from someone else, I can look at it and go, oh, is that really true for me now? Is that really where I want to be? Is that really what I do? And then I can choose to change how I view that, or to let go of it, or whatever needs to happen.
It is a complex and complicated subject that we will be talking about throughout our shows because it's all about relationship, right? So,
well, that actually brings us to next week.
Next week, where we will be coming to you live from the CSL convention in Palm Desert, California.
Yes, indeed. Us and 3 of our best friends will be there. We're excited. It'll be fun. And we're talking about intentional relationship. Intentional
relationship. Yeah, which we can kind of continue this. But I would say to you, if you're looking for some love work to do, some growth work, really just think about the conversation today and begin to think about where you hear those voices, like where your mom pops up or where your dad pops up, and just begin to identify them. Right?
Just notice. It's really about noticing. For me, it's about what happens for me is I get lost in whatever opinion or feeling I'm having in the moment. And I'll get stuck there, and I'll dig in that this is the truth. This is what's happening. I have to stop myself and go, wait, this is how this goes. So why am I thinking that?
Yeah. And I'd just add that whenever he gets to that place, I have to stop myself too from killing him. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I was going to say, that's when she says, I have to go.
That's a little insight into our relationship. So I want to leave you with a quote, which is from Brene Brown, who says, our job is not to deny the story, but to defy the ending.
Mm-hmm. See?
To rise strong, recognize our story, and rumble with the truth until we get to a place where we think, yes, This is what happened, and I will choose how the story ends. So that's our charge to you.
How's your story going to end? How is whatever that is that's going through your head going to play itself out? And that's where the choice comes in. That's where we have the choice.
And that's where we say, rock the love.
Rock it.
Rock the love. Stand in the love. Be the love. Know that the love is the truth. So that's our story for today. So we want to thank our fabulous producers, Robert Brzezinski and Michael Mangus. Pastor Michael has a show on New Thought Media Network, as does Rev Robert, has many shows. There's many shows, and I really invite you, if you liked what you saw today, there's so much going on. If you just come to newthoughtmedianetwork.org,
newthoughtmedia.org.
Come there, newthoughtmedia.org, and just check it out. Just look around. It's like a shopping spree. Just look around and see what might be of interest to you. We've got cosmic prayer. We've got ministers talking shit. We've got all kinds of things going on. It's a metaphysical Disneyland. So do that. And if you liked what you saw, I also encourage you and invite you to donate. We're all here changing the world. This is what we're doing. It's a big job, but somebody has to do it. And you're doing it along with us. And so we're just grateful you're here. So please check it out and donate if you're moved to do that. It goes to helping us do good things and get good things out into the world. A lot of exciting things coming up that we'll be talking about on the network in the next few months. And so be part of it and join us again next week. And
we just like to tell you that we have a lot of exciting things coming up as well for the two of us to share with you. And so we'll be talking about some of those things on the show as we go forward.
We will.
So we're grateful that you're here, grateful that you've taken your time. And we just hope that we have helped you rock the love just a little bit today.
Yes. And as you can tell, I don't have a hair and makeup department to thank today, but I love them. They're my family. Thank you, Rubio department. So keep on rocking the love, you all, and see you next week.
Bye now.